Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Noble, along with Wofford football head coach Sean Watson. It is time for another edition of Inside Wofford Football, as always, brought to you by Yokohama. Well, a different stage of the season begins this week. Conference play begins as the Terriers head down to Macon, Georgia, to take on the team picked to win the Southern Conference in the preseason poll, the Mercer Bears. Coach, you and I have talked about every goal that this team has, despite a couple of tough losses to some pretty good football teams. Every goal in terms of Southern Conference play is there ahead for this group.
It is, and we've got to continue to work to grow our football team because of our inexperience at some positions. But I feel good about what's taking place. We saw growth across the board, and we just got to keep getting better. And looking forward to the conference season.
All right, when we come back, we will revisit a very interesting Saturday night at Gibbs Stadium, weather-wise and football-wise, against Richmond. We will look ahead to the matchup with Mercer, and we'll visit with Terrier safety C.J. Coombs, who had the big pick six on Saturday night. It is all ahead here on Inside Wofford Football.
It doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 80 years old, your body is your strongest tool. Spartanburg Regional Sports Medicine Institute is here to push you to the next level. With 2 convenient locations, our doctors can diagnose, treat, and heal at our North Grove Medical Park and Star Center offices to get you back in the gym, in the game, and to the next level. We never quit because you never quit. For more information, call 560-BONE.
Welcome back. As I mentioned, an interesting Saturday night at Gibbs Stadium. Let's start first as Richmond came to town with the whole weather situation. You ramp up, you think you're going to warm up, you don't. Then we're told it might be 7:30, then it told it might be earlier than that. How did you guys deal with all the uncertainty pregame?
It was interesting because, we were really there's all kinds of different scenarios. It's a lightning thing, so whenever lightning's in our vicinity, we cannot go out there. Fans can't go to the stands. It's just safety measures, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we just had to manage and handle it. Several coaches, myself included, we've all been in those situations, so we just managed it.
Once the game began, about an hour and a half after the scheduled start time, you put a freshman quarterback on the field, Ethan Drum, and certainly as things started going, Richmond knew that. They pinned their ears back, came after him. First of all, what led you to the decision to start Ethan, and what did you see from him that thought he might be the guy to go to?
Well, he'd been competitive since he's been here as a freshman. He's got some real instincts at quarterback, and he's got arm talent, obviously. And his maturity is beyond his playing days. So he really put himself in competition with Witt for the starting job, and it was nip and tuck all the way through. So he had performed really well, and we just felt like we needed to give him an opportunity.
He got the start. Richmond had the first long drive of the game. They go 8 plays, 90 yards in the first quarter, aided by 3 Wofford defensive penalties. And I know that's something, especially the offsides, that you want to clean up.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, that's just hearing to the details, watching the ball. Don't listen, but watch the ball. And those things are all things that need to get fixed, and will get fixed.
I know you also had some new faces on the offensive line, moving some people around. Kyle Parsons was hurt. You're losing him. And after a couple of punts, you put Maddox Cowart back in there, and he actually had a pretty good night, averaged about 43 yards per punt. You were playing the field position game after their score, and Maddox came through a couple of times.
He did. He came through in a big way. I think he, averaged, about 48 yards a kick, when he went in there. So he did a great job, and he's been again another position, new faces, and just competition. And we've he earned the opportunity to see what he could do, and he answered.
We'll fast forward to the last play of the first quarter, 7-0 Richmond. The Spiders starting to drive again until C.J. Coombs said no.
Not get this play off. Richmond will try to get the play off, and Wickersham's going to go over the middle, and it's going to be intercepted. Wofford's got it. down the right sideline. This could go all the way, and it will. It'll be a touchdown, Terriers.
And just like that, it was 7-7 after one quarter. CJ is playing lights out. He and Maximus Pulley really the quarterbacks of your defense back there. And he's the defensive player of the week in the Southern Conference. Could you ask for any more out of him right now?
No, he's done a great job. We've moved him, played him at several different places, and he and Max, because of their experience and then a knowledge of the defense, they give us all kinds of flexibility, and we can move those guys around and hide them. And the guy who's really allowing us to do it also is Eli Campbell. We have three really good safeties, and CJ gets put in some places where we're going to put him in places to make plays, and then Max and Eli do a great job of being able to allow us to adjust, and they too have been stellar also.
I know in the second quarter and kind of into the third, the game kind of bogged down a little bit. It was a defensive battle. Ethan started to look more comfortable. You started getting the running game going. I thought Ison Jackson Anderson ran really, really hard, and that cutback ability that we didn't know he had, he certainly displayed.
Yeah, he's a good player. I thought, the 2-minute drive really kind of set. I think that was that really got Ethan in a groove. And then mentioning Elijah has been a really good runner first 2 weeks, and we just gave him more time this week. He and Gerald are playing really well for us.
Certainly, as the third quarter began, Richmond gets the ball. Or rather, the fourth quarter began, Richmond gets the ball. Another long drive, and I think that's the only thing that we could even quibble with about the defense is they have given up a couple of long extended drives. We talk about third down on offense, but sometimes third down on defense is what you want to hang your hat on. Correctable things in terms of what the defense is doing on third down?
Yeah, it starts with us as coaches. I'm going to speak to both sides of the ball. I think both sides of the ball, we need to, A, get them off the field, those long drives you're talking about, and then B, we've got to stay on the field. So those are all things that start with us as coaches, and then emphasize them in practice, which we're going to amp up even more this week.
Once they took the lead at 14-10 and late in the game, you had a couple of chances offensively, you had a couple of drives, and you and I have talked about protection, and whoever's the quarterback there, whoever the weapons are offensively, if he doesn't have time to throw, third down is going to be a problem, and trying to drive down for a game-winning drive is going to be a problem. So you had to move some pieces around on the offensive line. How is that unit coming together? Are they comfortable with that, and does that process continue?
Yeah, we cross-train. We start cross-training in training camp, and what happens when you cross-train, you're not going to have the banked reps or the reps that you would have had if that guy was a starter. So, we've moved Dylan to tackle, and then Quincy's able to go in at guard, and that's really helped us. That was this week's move, and that helps us out. It allows us, to have a rotation at tackle, and we just needed to give all those combinations really more time. We took Luke. The big move was Luke to center, and when that happened, there's a little chain reaction that goes on.
All right, well, the final was 14-10, two tough losses by a total of 5 points to two very good football teams. If you don't believe me, look what South Carolina State did to South Carolina, being very competitive in that game late down in Columbia. But now the work goes on. When we come back, we'll preview the first conference game with Mercer. It's coming up next here on Inside Wofford Football, brought to you by Yokohama. Welcome back, everybody, with head coach Sean Watson. I'm Jim Noble. Mercer looming as the first conference game Saturday night in Macon, Georgia. The team picked to win the conference in the preseason poll. Not that means anything these days with all the changing cast of characters, but a team that's had a weird start to their season. They had a game wiped out because of lightning halfway through. Then they lost to Presbyterian, who may be better than we thought they were based on what they've done. What do you think going into Macon in terms of the challenge you'll face down there Saturday night?
I expect the best. They're a well-coached football team. Coach Jacobson does a great job. His staff does a great job. So, and they've got very good football players. So, we'll get their best shot, and because the conference season means everything to both teams.
The feeling in this locker room, Coach, despite being 0-2, you got a lot of new players and faces, and it's easy for young kids to get down when they just look at wins and losses. How do you get them revved up and focused, on the prize being conference play?
Well, you just focus on the process, process of getting better as a football player. And, it starts with us as coaches again, we always put that in the forefront. And, it's a constant development. We have to mentor, grow, and teach. That's our job. So that's what we do. All
right, well, we're going to let you go. We wish you the best of luck. Have a great game down there. We'll see you Saturday in Macon.
All right.
All right, and when we come back, we will visit with Wofford safety C.J. Coombs next here on Inside Wofford Football.
It doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 80 years old, your body is your strongest tool. Spartanburg Regional Sports Medicine Institute is here to push you to the next level. With 2 convenient locations, our doctors can diagnose, treat, and heal at our North Grove Medical Park and Star Center offices to get you back in the gym, in the game, and to the next level. We never quit because you never quit. For more information, call 560-BONE.
Welcome back to Inside Wofford Football, sponsored by Yokohama. I am here with the reigning Southern Conference Defensive Player of the Week, safety C.J. Coombs, coming off that pick 6 that we were looking at earlier in the show. Congratulations, man. I know you want to have that honor coming off a win, but still, you and the defense have been playing pretty well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we have.
How do you feel about the way that things have come together defensively? I know, C.J., you've been on the field for a long time. Time of possession has been a little out of whack. You guys have kind of bent but not broken. How would you assess the total defense performance so far in the first 2 games?
I think through the first 2 games we played great. I think we put a lot of great stuff on film, but we all know there's room for improvement overall. Mm-hmm. So we have been on the field a lot, but we've only got 1 takeaway. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing we've realized after 2 games is we got to take the ball away more, and we got to pressure the quarterback a little more.
You and Maximus Poli are back there, kind of the quarterbacks of the defense, so you get to see everything that's going on in front of you. Let's start with the defensive line. Great to have Brandon Mena back there, and some of those young guys who played as freshmen have been really coming up. From your vantage point in center field, how do you feel about the D-line?
Having Brandon Mena he's one of one, in my opinion. I think he's the best player in FCS college football. You turn on the tape, it's unreal. And the young guys have stepped up. Ramon, Big O, Seth is a 5th year coming back. These guys on the D-line have made our job so much easier. Mm-hmm.
Linebackers, they are young, most of them. You're the old guy as a redshirt sophomore. How's their progression been, although it's very early in the season?
It's been great. They communicate well. They make checks. We watch a lot of film together. They've overall just made it easier on me in the back end to play my game freely and just understand the offense. And, they fly around and have fun. So it's great.
I know that at 0-2, despite 2 losses by a total of, 5 points, all the goals that you guys still have in terms of conference and Southern Conference, the conference appears to be wide open this year. You go into a tough place to play Mercer on Saturday. How do you feel about ramping things up even more now that we're entering conference play?
I think as a team, we know what we need to do. We know the challenge that Mercer brings offensively and defensively. But like you said, we have everything still in front of us. Last year we started the season 2-0, and we finished 3-7 on the year in the next 10. So starting 0-2 for us, it was a good feel out. We got a lot of new faces, a lot of new players, and we believe going into the next stretch of games, especially being conference play, that we can dominate the Southern Conference.
Well, whatever
your pieces to do.
Yeah. And that'll do it for this edition of Inside Wofford Football. Thanks, of course, to CJ and Coach Sean Watson. For Sean Watson, I'm Jim Noble. We'll see you next time.